Greetings. I have seen a lot of discourse around Marathon, and like everyone else, I wanted to throw my 2 cents in. But my 2 cents is not an opinion or a review, but somewhat of a guide to help address some of the many issues people are having. I think that the first run or the first few runs are challenging, as the game can be a little bit overwhelming, especially when you're trying to just give a game a shot during a free weekend to determine if you're purchasing it. Ideally, this is for someone who is considering downloading the game or has just downloaded the game and doesn't have a lot of prior knowledge to what Marathon is. I wish that I could have got this video out sooner, but I had to get my time into the game to understand it a little bit better so that I could provide some content for you guys. Before we jump into everything, I want to mention that Marathon is an in-depth game. I mean, there's lots of weapons and character mods, as well as attachments, consumables, currencies, stats, and there's a lot to dive into. And while some are more important to a new player than others, all will kind of shape your view of the game. While I won't be diving into every key aspect of Marathon, I just wanted to mention a few key things that might help you get going. Firstly, I want to kind of encourage people to spend some time in that tutorial mission if you haven't already started the game. While it may be a little bit lacking in some of the explanations, it's a great place to get familiar with the kind of structure of the game. I would sit there and kind of get familiar with your controller or key bindings and take your time in the mission. I mean, there's AI to defeat, lots of containers to loot, and there are no enemy players in that first one. So make sure to take your time, get familiar, and settings to what you like them to be. But I also want to encourage that in this first mission, as well as in the tutorials that follow right after, take your time to read the tooltips and guides. I know that that is not everyone's favorite thing, but it'll take you 15 seconds to read some of these tooltips, and they will be a game changer, I promise you. And I did want to let you know that early on, and especially after your first run, your character will feel very different to how it feels an hour into the game. I've seen many complaints about heat and stamina being too restrictive, there being too little ammo or too few heals. I think all of these are addressable within an hour of gameplay. And while they're valid, the game is similar to a roguelike in that sense. And I know that's kind of a buzzword, but you're always working towards something. And most of the time, your next run, you will be stronger than your previous run, even if you lost. So I know that might be asking a lot of people, but you have to give the game a fair shake. It's really impossible to judge it just off of your first run. So I've broken this video down into a few key early sections. The first of which being quests and missions. Next being skill trees and upgrades. We're also going to touch on how to prepare for a run, especially for a new player. I also want to touch on some of the UI feedback that I've seen discussed, and we'll cap up with some thoughts on kind of where to go from here. So first off, quests and missions. I think it's very important that you always have at least one quest equipped from one of the vendors. Your first quest will be only available through CyberAcme and will kind of introduce you to the game as well as the factions. Now, unlocking the factions is important because it opens up a progression path. Now, you can go many different ways on your progression path depending on your priorities. Choosing which faction to prioritize will go a long way, and you'll have to base that off of your own personal priorities. I personally decided to level up CyberAcme in New Caloric due to their upgrades kind of aligning with some of the issues I was having. And I'll kind of jump into that now. Let's talk about skill trees and upgrades. As I mentioned before, issues with ammo, heat generation, medical supplies, or equipment are all addressable through upgrading faction skill trees. The two frustrations I had on were heat generation and medical supplies. Especially since I was playing Vandal, I felt like my heat generation was just going up too quickly. I wasn't able to do a whole lot before I overheated. I also didn't want to spend all the currency I had on resupplying my meds. It felt like even after a successful run, I went through a lot of my medical supplies and was just running through my currency, resupplying after each run. So that kind of led me to level up CyberAcme in New Caloric first. And within an hour of gameplay, I had the following upgrades. Within CyberAcme, I had my heatsink.exe upgrade, which increased my heat bar, allowing me to do more actions before it was full, whether that was jump or melee or slide. And I also unlocked the quick vent, which allowed for my heat to recover faster, meaning that after I have fully depleted my stamina or in between, it would decrease at a higher rate. Within New Caloric, I unlocked the ability to purchase shield packs and health kits, some of which were free on a daily rotation. This kind of helped me get into that first run of the day where I had my shields, I had my healths, and helped me get the ball rolling. Especially if that first run goes well, then you are set. You usually find some healing and you're able to get some scraps to set up your next runs. And if you fail, well, you still should have some of that currency saved up because you didn't have to use it on shields and health. These were just a couple. I mean, depending on your priorities and what issues you're having with, each vendor has upgrades that will help. If you are kind of frustrated with your starting guns, they feel weak, Traxxas and Arcane both unlock free daily weaponry as well as weapon mods for purchase. So you are able to use your scrap to upgrade your weapons or start off with something a little bit stronger. If you are looking for grenades or equipment, claymores, ammo packs, Mida was a really good upgrade path that allowed me to get some for free and then unlock them available for purchase. All of these starting mods will go a long way and take a minimal amount of gameplay time to acquire. While some of these upgrades require credits only, there are some that require you to go find materials throughout the map. But again, these early ones are usually very easy to find. Now, I kind of wanted to touch on prepping for your early runs. Now, this isn't as applicable if you're someone that's already had a few runs in, but I do want to touch on somebody that's maybe just starting and how to prepare. One easy way to get going is a starter kit. Most of the time you'll be able to find a free one that will give you a weapon, some ammo, some heals, and you'll be able to jump into a run right away. You're kind of playing with house money. A lot of these free kits are also given to you upon faction level up. So it's very important that you're leveling up your factions, keeping track of your quests, and you'll get lots of free loadouts. But if you are prepared to set something up from scratch, I've prepared a few tips to get you going. First, I think it's obvious, a backpack. Your first few runs, you may not find one, but enemy players and some high-level AI will have them occasionally. I felt like they always kept me in the runs longer. I didn't have to extract as soon because I was able to carry a little more in my backpack. I think it's very important to mention that CyberAcme has an upgrade that only requires rank 5 and some scrap that allow you to purchase a backpack from the store. This is a game changer. I felt like I was never going into a run without a backpack since then, and has got me a lot more playtime since I wasn't extracting so early. Tip number 2 is weaponry. I have a couple things I want to mention here. Firstly, I think for your first couple runs, a Volt weapon is so nice to have. I think this will address some of the ammo issues. I mean, Volt batteries are a dime a dozen if you are even somewhat occasionally fighting the UESC, which is this game's AI. They always drop ammo. 9 times out of 10 will drop Volt batteries. So if you have a Volt machine gun or a Volt pistol, it is so nice to have, and you'll kind of always be set. And to kind of go along with this, I would try the new guns that you find along the way. I was unaware that Marathon had this many different types of weapons, with more I still haven't discovered, and it's been a blast picking up a new weapon for the first time and figuring out if this is something I want to try to work into my kit or figure out how to unlock faster. Healing, this may be another simple one, but I always had a huge difference in my runs if I could bring a stack of green rarity heals and shields with me. I think that, as I mentioned, these are easier to get when you upgrade some of the factions, but kind of just help me stay in the fight a little bit longer. Now, my last key piece of feedback revolves around everyone's negative feedback around the UI. I think a lot of the feedback around the UI is warranted, but I think that a lot of it just comes down to getting familiar with it. I think the UI is very manageable, and while to someone that's just looking for a quick one and done run, it can be a little bit, but after just a few couple runs, I think that you will really figure out how to navigate it. But I do have a few quick tips. Before your run, I highly recommend getting familiar with faction menus. I mean, this is where they house upgrades and level rewards that will rain loot on you. You will get so many shields and health items and backpacks. It'll be a game changer. Pay attention to the faction menu, as this is where all your quests live and will be a big area that you'll spend a lot of time in before runs. I also want to mention the armory, the shop. I cannot stress this enough. Look at the shop. The armory has so many items for you to use. If you feel under equipped, throw some salvage at the armory. Your salvage isn't going anywhere. I mean, it's not going to a portfolio to invest in. Spend it. The armory has a lot of equipment, especially after you get a few upgrades with your factions. And during a run, I only have one thing to mention, and I'm not sure the key binding on controller, but on mouse and keyboard, pressing C will allow you to toggle between item cost and item type. So if you are deciding to keep an item, maybe you want to just make sure you're keeping the most valuable, or maybe you wanting to keep something that actually applies to a character you play. I think that this helps distinguish between mods and salvage and using usable items quickly, especially when you're just getting started. I want to end on this following note. I know that the game is complicated. We didn't even touch on character mods, which will heavily impact your build crafting. We didn't really touch on a lot of the stat menu. But again, these are things that I think you'll catch on to just by following these tips and getting a few runs in. Spend some time with the game, understand how it functions, and the rest will come easy, I promise. And this will kind of help you decide if Marathon is the type of game you want to play. I appreciate everybody watching, and I hope to see you out there on Tau Ceti.